The stars were dying, and Ambassador Theorem knew it. He stood in the observation chamber of the Galactic Council's Fortress Station, watching another solar system blink out of existence. The Vrak swarm had consumed it completely. Every planet, every moon, every living thing, gone. Converted into more warriors for the endless hive. Theorem's three-fingered hands trembled as he clutched the data pad. 17 civilizations had fallen in the past 2 years. The Vraks were not slowing down. They were accelerating. "Ambassador, the Council is waiting," his aide whispered. The young Talari looked terrified. Everyone was terrified now. Theorem entered the grand chamber where representatives from 43 species gathered. Once, this room buzzed with debates about trade routes and cultural exchanges. Now it smelled of fear. "We must face the truth," Theorem began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Our fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons are useless. The Vraks adapt to everything we throw at them. We are losing this war." Silence filled the room. No one argued. They had all seen the reports. Commander Sorath of the Queneth species stood up. His tall, crystalline form shimmered under the lights. "What do you propose? We have contacted every known civilization. No one has the military power to help us." "Not every civilization," Theorem said quietly. He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above the chamber floor. A small blue and green planet rotated slowly. "This world was discovered 3 months ago by a scout ship. The inhabitants call it Earth." "They are primitives," someone called out. "They have barely achieved faster-than-light communication. What could they possibly offer?" Theorem zoomed in on the planet's surface. Images appeared. Massive cities, weapons that split atoms, machines that could level mountains. "They are not as primitive as we thought, but that is not why I bring them to your attention." He pulled up the planetary analysis. The numbers made several council members gasp. "Gravity, 1.0 standard units. Atmospheric pressure, 1.2 standard. Temperature variance, -50 to +50 degrees. Tectonic activity, extreme. Weather patterns, violent and unpredictable. Native predator count, over 5,000 species. Toxic plant life, over 10,000 species. Disease pathogens, uncountable." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. "This planet is rated as a Class 10 death world," Theorem continued. "By our classification system, it should not support complex life at all. Yet humans thrive there. They are apex predators on a world full of apex predators." "You want to recruit Deathworlders?" Sorath asked, his crystalline body pulsing with alarm. "That is madness." "That is survival," Theorem shot back. "The Vraks have never encountered a species like this. Every civilization they have consumed evolved on peaceful worlds. The humans evolved to fight, to endure, to survive conditions that would kill any of us within hours." The debate raged for 3 hours. Finally, the council voted. The decision was narrow, but it passed. They would send a distress signal to Earth. On Earth, Dr. Nari sat in the Deep Space Monitoring Station, drinking her 5th cup of coffee. It was 2 a.m., and she had been on shift for 14 hours. The job was usually boring, monitoring cosmic radiation, tracking asteroids, listening to the background noise of the universe. Then her computer started screaming. Nari jumped, spilling coffee across her desk. Every screen in the room flashed red. The signal was coming from outside the solar system, and it was strong, too strong to be natural. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. She isolated the signal and ran it through the analysis program. Mathematical sequences appeared on her screen. Prime numbers, geometric patterns, wavelength variations that formed pictures. It was a language, an alien language. Nari's hands shook as she began the translation process. The computer worked for 2 hours, building a dictionary from the mathematical foundation. Slowly, words formed, then sentences. "We are the Galactic Council. We are dying. Help us, join us, fight with us, or die when they come for you. The message included star charts, tactical data, and images of the Vrak swarm. Nari stared at the pictures of massive insect-like creatures tearing through spaceships. Her stomach turned. She picked up the phone and called her supervisor. "You need to see this. Right now." Within 48 hours, the message reached the United Earth Defense Initiative. Commander Jinwoo read the translation 3 times before he believed it. "They want military aid," he said, looking at the assembled officers. "Not diplomacy, not trade. They want soldiers." "We should send diplomats first," suggested one general. "Establish contact properly. Follow protocols." Jinwoo shook his head. "You saw the tactical data. The Vraks are consuming 3 to 5 solar systems per month. If we wait for diplomatic protocols, there will be no one left to negotiate with." He turned to the woman sitting at the end of the table. General Tai Yang was a legend in the military. She had fought in the resource wars, the Arctic conflicts, and the Pacific unification. She was 60 years old and looked like she could still break a man in half. "Can we do it?" Jinwoo asked her. "Can we put together an expeditionary force fast enough to matter?" Taeyang studied the star charts. 50,000 troops. 5 colony ships converted to military transports. 6 months to reach their space. She looked up. "Yes, we can do it." "Then make it happen." The message back to the Galactic Council was simple. "We are coming. Send coordinates. Earth Defense Force, 50,000 strong, deploying in 30 days. When Theorem received the reply, he thought there must be a translation error. No civilization could mobilize that quickly. But then, the data feeds started coming through. Images of humans loading massive ships with weapons, vehicles, and supplies. "They are really doing it," his aide whispered. "They are sending an army before even meeting us." Theorem watched the preparations with growing unease. He had asked for help. He had begged for warriors. Now he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. The humans did not move like civilized beings. They moved like predators. The ships launched from Earth exactly 30 days after the first message. General Tai Yang stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, watching her home planet shrink behind them. Around her, 50,000 Marines prepared for a war on the other side of the galaxy. They were humanity's answer to the Council's plea. They were the children of a death world, forged in violence, shaped by survival. They were coming. And the galaxy would never be the same. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace 6 months and 3 days after leaving Earth. General Taeyang stood on the bridge, watching the massive fortress station of Sanctum Prime grow larger on the view screen. "It is beautiful," Colonel Hana said beside her. The younger woman had spent the entire journey training the troops, preparing them for combat in alien environments. "Hard to believe we are here to save it." "Stay sharp," Taeyang replied. "We do not know these people yet. We do not know if we can trust them." The landing bay of Sanctum Prime could hold 100 ships. The human transport settled onto the deck with precision. Taeyang could see the welcoming committee through the view screen, dozens of aliens from species she had only seen in briefings. "They look fragile," Hana observed. She was right. Ambassador Theorem and his delegation stood at the base of the landing ramp, and they looked like strong wind might knock them over. The Talari were thin and tall, with skin like polished silver. The Quenith resembled living crystals. The Olvari floated in containment suits filled with gas. None of them looked like warriors. The loading ramp lowered with a hiss of hydraulics. Taeyang walked down first, her boots ringing on the metal. She wore full combat armor, black and gray, studded with weapon mounts and tactical displays. Behind her marched 200 Marines in similar gear. The aliens took a step back. Theorem recovered first. He stepped forward and raised his hand in what the briefing materials said was a peaceful greeting. "General Taeyang." Welcome to Sanctum Prime. We are grateful that you have come so far to help us. Taeyang removed her helmet. Her short gray hair and scarred face seemed to startle them even more than the armor. Ambassador Therim, we received your message. We are here to fight. Yes, of course, but first, we have prepared accommodations for your troops. You must be tired from the journey. We have medical facilities ready to help you adjust to our station's environment. We do not need adjustment time, Taeyang interrupted. My soldiers are ready for deployment now. Show us the tactical situation. Therim's three-fingered hands fluttered nervously. But surely you need rest. The atmospheric composition here is different from your world. The gravity is lower. We have prepared. Ambassador, Hana said, stepping forward. Our ships maintained Earth-standard gravity and atmosphere during the entire journey. This station's environment is actually easier for us than home. One of the Quenith officials checked a data device. His crystalline face somehow managed to look shocked. That is impossible. Your ship specifications say you maintained 1.0 gravity. That would crush most species over a 6-month period. We are not most species, Taeyang said simply. The cultural briefing session was a disaster. The council had prepared a formal dinner to welcome the humans. It was held in a grand hall with tables arranged in careful circles. Soft music played. The lighting was gentle and warm. Captain Minho arrived with his command staff and immediately frowned. Why is it so dark in here? A Talari attendant hurried over. This is standard illumination for diplomatic functions. Is it too bright? We can lower it further. Too dark, Minho corrected. We can barely see. Can you increase it? The lights rose to what the attendant clearly thought was an uncomfortable level. The humans nodded, satisfied. Several aliens put on protective eye coverings. The food was another problem. The council had carefully prepared dishes from 20 different cultures, all nutritionally balanced and completely safe for consumption by most species. Lieutenant Hyunwoo took one bite and made a face. Does anyone have hot sauce? Hot sauce? The attendant asked, confused. Hyunwoo pulled a small bottle from his pocket. He poured bright red liquid over his entire plate. The smell made nearby aliens recoil. He took another bite and smiled. Much better. What is that substance? Medic Yuna asked, curious despite herself. She was sitting next to a Quenith medical officer named Nalith. Capsaicin-based flavoring, Hyunwoo explained. From a plant on Earth. Nalith checked his medical database. His crystalline body went pale. That is a defense toxin. It causes tissue damage and activates pain receptors. Right, Hyunwoo agreed, taking another bite. That is why it tastes good. The medical officer looked like he might faint. The conversation got worse from there. Major Jinho mentioned breaking his arm as a child and how it healed in 6 weeks. The aliens were horrified. Broken bones were often fatal for their species. Sergeant Sora described Earth's oceans, with waves that could sink ships and creatures that could swallow humans whole. Commander Sorath asked why anyone would go near such places. Sora explained that humans swam in the ocean for fun. Staff Sergeant Borum told a story about hiking in mountains where the air was so thin that most species would suffocate. She had done it on vacation. By the end of dinner, the council delegates were staring at the humans with a mixture of awe and terror. Later that night, Therim met with the council's xenobiology team in a secure lab. Nalith had requested emergency permission to scan the humans who agreed to medical examinations. Show me, Therim demanded. Nalith pulled up a holographic display of a human skeleton. Bone density is 3 times standard. Their skeletal structure could support loads that would shatter our bones into dust. He switched to muscular system. Muscle fiber density is extreme. A human child has more physical strength than an adult Talari. Next came the cardiovascular system. Their hearts are incredibly powerful. They can maintain high-intensity activity for hours. Their blood carries oxygen so efficiently that they can function in atmospheres that would leave us gasping. The nervous system scan appeared. Pain tolerance is beyond our measurement scale. They have nerve density that should make them constantly overwhelmed by sensory input. Yet they process it all naturally. And their healing factor, he trailed off, shaking his head. What about their healing? Theorem asked. They regenerate damaged tissue at a rate we consider medically impossible. Small wounds close in days. Broken bones fuse in weeks. They can lose up to 30% of their blood volume and survive. They can function with damaged organs. They are, by our standards, nearly indestructible. Therim sat down heavily. What have we brought here? Nalith pulled up one final image, a comparison chart showing human capabilities versus council species averages. In every category, strength, speed, endurance, resilience, sensory processing, humans exceeded the average by factors of 3 to 10. We asked for help fighting the Vrax, Nalith said quietly. We received apex predators from a nightmare world. General Taeyang requested a meeting with Commander Sorath the next morning. She came straight to the point. We are ready for deployment. Send us to the front lines. Sorath hesitated. General, with respect, you have just arrived. You do not know our tactics, our technology, We do not need to know your tactics, Taeyang interrupted. We need to know where the enemy is. We will handle the rest. You do not understand the Vrax. They are not like anything you have faced on your world. They adapt. They overwhelm. They bleed? Taeyang asked. Sorath blinked. Yes, they have a circulatory system that... Then they can die, and we can kill them. Despite his reservations, Sorath assigned the human force to Velinar IV. It was a contested world where the Vrax had established a minor presence. The humans would defend a supply depot in the secondary combat zone. Important enough to be useful, but unlikely to see heavy action. It would be a safe introduction to galactic warfare. As the human ships departed for Velinar IV, Therim watched from the observation deck. Beside him, Nalith studied his medical data. They volunteered for this, Nalith said softly. They traveled across the galaxy to fight for people they have never met. Why? Therim thought about the question for a long time before answering. Perhaps because they understand something we have forgotten. They know what it means to fight for survival. Their whole planet taught them that lesson every single day. The human fleet disappeared into hyperspace. The galaxy was about to learn what Deathworlders could do. Velinar IV was a miserable planet. The sky was orange, the air smelled like sulfur, and the temperature swung between freezing and boiling depending on the time of day. The Council forces had established a supply depot on the northern continent, far from the main battle zones. Major Jinho stood at the edge of the landing zone, watching his engineers unload equipment. Around them, Council soldiers stared in confusion. "Why are they digging?" a Talari officer asked Commander Sorath, who had come to oversee the human deployment. Sorath watched as hundreds of humans carved trenches into the rocky ground. They worked with tools and bare hands, moving earth that Council engineers had declared too hard to excavate. "I do not know," he admitted. Jinho overheard and walked over. "We are preparing defensive positions." "But the enemy is 300 kilometers away," the Talari officer protested. "This depot is not a priority target. Our tactical computers give it a 2% chance of attack." "Your computers are wrong," Jinho said flatly. He pointed at the terrain around them. "This position has clear sight lines, defensible high ground, and proximity to your main supply route. If the Vrax have any tactical sense at all, they will hit us here." "The Vrax do not think like that. They follow pheromone trails and—" Jinho cut him off. "They adapt. That is what your briefing said. So they will learn. And when they do, we will be ready." He turned back to his engineers. "Dig deeper." "I want firing positions every 10 meters." Staff Sergeant Sora had her infantry squad running combat drills in the harsh afternoon heat. The temperature was 45 degrees Celsius, and the air was thin. The council soldiers watched from inside their climate-controlled tents, convinced the humans would collapse from exhaustion. Instead, the humans ran faster. "Again!" Sora shouted. "And this time, Private Deho, try not to fall behind." The young Marine grunted and pushed harder. Sweat poured down his face, but he kept moving. A Quenith medical officer approached Sorath. "Commander, they have been exercising for 3 hours in conditions that should cause organ failure. Should we not stop them?" Sorath checked the environmental readings. The conditions would indeed be lethal to most council species. "I suspect they would consider it insulting if we did." The attack came on the third day. It started with a sound like thunder rolling across the plains. The council's early warning systems screamed alerts. Commander Sorath stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 10,000 Virax warriors approaching from the east. They are not following predicted routes. They are coming straight for the depot. "Impossible," the Talari tactical officer said. "How did they know?" Sorath felt ice in his veins. "They adapted, just like the humans said they would." He opened communications to all forces. "All units, prepare for full evacuation. Fall back to secondary positions. This depot is lost." General Taeyang's voice came back over the channel, calm and cold. "Negative. We are not evacuating. We are holding this position." "General, you have 2,000 soldiers. They have 10,000 Vrax warriors. The mathematics are impossible." "Then we will have to be creative." Taeyang cut the communication and turned to her command staff. Colonel Hana was already organizing firing positions. Captain Minho had the heavy weapons teams setting up kill zones. Lieutenant Hyunwoo was coordinating with Jinho's engineers to finish the defensive works. "How long until they reach us?" Taeyang asked. 20 minutes, Hana replied. "Then we have 20 minutes to teach the galaxy what humans can do." The Vrax came like a black tide across the orange plains. They were massive creatures, each one the size of a small vehicle, with razor-sharp limbs and armored carapaces. They moved fast, using 4 legs for running and 2 arms for slashing and grabbing. The council observers expected the humans to panic. Instead, they stood calm and ready. "Fire on my mark," Taeyang ordered. The Vrax entered the kill zone, a stretch of open ground that Jinho's engineers had seeded with mines and explosives. They were 50 meters away, 40, 30. "Mark!" The ground erupted. Explosions tore through the Vrax front lines, sending bodies flying. But the swarm did not slow. More warriors poured forward, trampling their own dead. "All weapons, fire at will!" The human line erupted in thunder. Rifles barked, machine guns roared, rockets screamed through the air. The Vrax warriors fell by dozens, by hundreds. But still they came. Sora stood in her trench, firing controlled bursts. Her squad moved like a machine. Shoot, reload, shoot again. When a Vrax warrior leaped over the barricade, she drew her combat knife and drove it into the creature's nerve cluster. It died with a shriek. "Keep firing. Do not let them group up." Minho's heavy weapons teams turned the center of the battlefield into hell. Anti-vehicle guns designed to destroy tanks punched through Vrax armor like paper. Flamethrower teams burned entire groups of warriors into ash. But the Vrax kept coming. A section of the line broke when a wave of warriors overwhelmed the defenders. Yunwoo saw it happening and grabbed a rifle. "Second squad, with me! Plug that gap!" He led 20 Marines into hand-to-hand combat. The fighting was brutal and close. Humans used rifles as clubs, knives as spears, bare hands when weapons failed. A Vrax warrior slashed Yunwoo across the chest, a wound that would have been fatal to any council soldier. He fell back, clutching the injury, then stood up and kept fighting. The gap held. The battle raged for 3 days and 2 nights without stopping. The humans rotated positions but never retreated. They fought wounded, fought exhausted, fought with equipment that should have failed hours ago. Sergeant Jiwoo became a legend on the second day. She was defending a critical ammunition point when a Vrax assault wave broke through. A warrior's blade took her left arm off at the elbow. She should have gone into shock, should have died. Instead, she picked up her rifle with her remaining hand and kept firing. One-handed, bleeding heavily, she held the position for 40 minutes until reinforcements arrived. She killed 47 Vrax warriors before finally collapsing. The medics found her still conscious, still trying to reload her weapon. "The ammunition," she gasped. "Did we hold it?" "We held it," Medic Yuna assured her, already working to stop the bleeding. "Because of you, we held it." On the third day, the Vrax assault finally broke. The swarm had lost over 8,000 warriors and gained nothing. The remaining Vrax retreated, confused by an enemy that should have broken but never did. Commander Sorath arrived with reinforcements just as the last Vrax withdrew. He stood at the edge of the depot, staring at the battlefield in stunned silence. The ground was carpeted with Vrax bodies. The defensive positions were torn apart, but they still stood. And in the center of it all, the humans had raised their flag, a simple banner showing Earth against black space. Sorath found General Taeyang in the command bunker. She was coordinating casualty reports and resupply requests. She looked tired but unbroken. "What are your losses?" he asked quietly. 1,043 dead, 617 wounded, all supply targets secured. Sorath did the mathematics in his head. Over 50% casualties. His people would have considered such losses catastrophic, grounds for a full retreat and tactical review. "I am sorry," he said. "That is a terrible price." Taeyang looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death. "Commander, you asked for warriors. Warriors understand sacrifice. Every soldier here volunteered knowing they might not go home. They fought anyway because that is what humans do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves." She stood and walked to the bunker entrance. Outside, the surviving Marines were singing. A slow, mournful song for their fallen comrades. But there was pride in it too. Pride and defiance. "Your computers gave us a 2% chance of seeing combat here," Taeyang said. "Yet the Vrax came anyway. They are adapting faster than your models predict. They are learning to think tactically." "I know," Sorath admitted. "I was wrong. You were right. Then trust us from now on. Give us the hard missions, the impossible positions, the battles you think cannot be won. That is what we are built for." Sorath looked out at the battlefield again, at the Vrax bodies and the human dead and the flag still flying. He thought about his people, who retreated at 5% casualties, who valued preservation over victory, who had been losing this war for 2 years. Then he looked at these Deathworlders, who had held against impossible odds and would fight the same battle tomorrow if needed. "Very well, General," he said. "I will trust you. The galaxy will learn to do the same." News of the Battle of Velinar IV spread through the Council like wildfire. The species that had written off the human position as lost learned that 2,000 humans had held against 10,000 Vrax. They saw the casualty reports and the tactical analysis. They saw what Deathworlders could do, and they were both grateful and terrified. The war changed after Velinar IV. The Council Military Command, once skeptical of the human forces, began integrating them into frontline operations across every contested system. General Taeyang established what she called the Deathworld Doctrine, a complete tactical framework built around humanity's unique strengths. Commander Jinwoo led the first implementation. His Special Forces unit, quickly nicknamed Jinwoo's Raiders, specialized in boarding actions against Vrax hive ships. The Council had never attempted such operations before. They were considered suicide missions. For humans, they were just another Thursday. The first boarding action took place in the Korath system. A Vrax hive ship was consuming a mining colony, and conventional weapons could not penetrate its organic armor. Council forces prepared to write off the colony and evacuate what civilians they could. Jinwoo had other plans. "We go in through the waste ports," he explained to his shocked council liaison. "The Vrax expel organic matter here, here, and here." He pointed at thermal scans of the ship. "The ports are less defended because nothing in their experience has ever been crazy enough to enter that way." "That is because the waste is toxic," the liaison protested. "The temperature inside those channels is over 100 degrees Celsius. The acidic content would dissolve our equipment in minutes." Jinwoo smiled. "Good thing we brought protective gear then." 20 raiders entered the hive ship, wearing experimental hazard suits that council engineers thought would fail immediately. Instead, the humans fought their way through 3 kilometers of hostile terrain, killing Vrax defenders, dodging biological traps, and breathing air that would have poisoned most species. They reached the ship's neural cluster in 47 minutes. Jinwoo personally planted the explosive charges. The raiders evacuated, and the hive ship died. Its control center destroyed. 3,000 colonists were saved. Jinwoo lost 2 soldiers. Both volunteered to stay behind to ensure the charges detonated properly. The council called it miraculous. Jinwoo called it acceptable losses. Colonel Hana commanded the Heavy Assault Division, equipped with experimental power armor that the council had developed but never deployed. The armor was too heavy for most species to wear and generated too much internal heat for biological systems to handle. Humans wore it like second skin. Hana's hammers became legendary at the Battle of Quello Station. The Vrax had surrounded the orbital platform, cutting off 8 million civilians from evacuation. Council forces launched 3 rescue attempts, and all 3 failed with heavy casualties. Hana requested permission to try a 4th time. Commander Sorath, now working closely with Human Command, approved despite his reservations. "This is insane," he said, watching the tactical plan. "You want to drop directly onto the station's surface in powered armor, without ships, just fall from orbit." "Orbital insertion," Hana corrected. "We practiced it on Earth. Works great." "On Earth," Sorath repeated weakly. "Your death world." "Exactly. This will be easier." 200 Marines in power armor dropped from low orbit like meteors. They hit the station's outer hull at terminal velocity, using their armor's shields to absorb the impact. 97% survived the landing. Then they went to work. The power armor turned humans into walking tanks. Hana punched through Vrax warriors with pile-driver fists. Her soldiers carried weapons that could level buildings, used jump jets to move in ways that confused the Vrax tactical response, and coordinated with a precision that the swarm could not match. In 6 hours, the hammers cleared the entire station. The evacuation ships came in and rescued all 8 million civilians. Hana's division suffered 12 casualties, all wounded, none fatal. Commander Sorath watched the battle from his command ship, unable to speak. This was warfare on a level he had never imagined possible. Captain Minho ran the rapid response cavalry, using armored vehicles modified far beyond Council safety specifications. The acceleration forces inside those vehicles would liquefy the internal organs of most species. Human pilots called it a fun ride. The liberation of Cora 3 was Minho's finest moment. The planet was home to 4 billion Queneth civilians, and the Vrax had infested it completely. Council military doctrine said the planet was lost. Evacuation was impossible, and reconquest would take years. Minho looked at the tactical situation and saw an opportunity. "Their command structure is centralized," he explained to Dr. Nari, who had joined the fleet as chief scientific advisor. "All Vrax on the planet are controlled from a single neural node hidden in this canyon system." Nari studied the geography and went pale. "That canyon is toxic. The atmosphere is sulfuric acid. The heat is extreme. The Vraks are there because nothing else can survive those conditions. Nothing else except humans, Minho said. He led 300 Marines through that canyon in vehicles that should have melted from the heat. They drove through acid rain that scarred their armor, navigated terrain that shifted and crumbled, and fought through 5,000 Virax warriors defending the neural node. The breakthrough came when Minho realized the Virax were protecting the node too heavily, which meant it was vulnerable. He ordered his vehicles to ram the defensive positions directly. The impacts killed the Vraks, but also destroyed most of the vehicles. 73 humans survived the initial assault. They fought on foot in conditions that resembled Earth's worst volcanic regions, using weapons that overheated and failed, wearing armor that cracked and split from the acid. They reached the neural node. Minho personally detonated the explosive charge that destroyed it. The Vraks across the entire planet collapsed simultaneously, their hive connections severed. 4 billion Quenith civilians were saved. When Council forces entered the canyon 3 days later to rescue the survivors, they found Minho's Marines still holding position around the destroyed node. They had stayed to ensure no secondary systems could reactivate the Vraks network. Of the 300 who entered, 73 survived. Every one of them would have done it again. Lieutenant Hyunwoo discovered the key to ending the war. He studied captured Vrak specimens and noticed their communication system relied on complex pheromone networks. The information went to Dr. Nari, who assembled a team of human chemical engineers. "We can disrupt their coordination," she explained at a high-level strategy meeting. "Create synthetic pheromones that override their natural ones, turn their greatest strength into a weakness." The Council's ethics board was horrified. "That is chemical warfare. It is banned under the Galactic Conventions." "Your conventions are what allowed the Vraks to consume 17 civilizations," Taeyang said coldly. "We did not travel across the galaxy to lose this war because of rules the enemy does not follow." The debate raged for weeks. Finally, with the Vraks threatening to break through into the core worlds, the Council voted to authorize the weapon. The first deployment happened at the Battle of Dernix. Human ships released the synthetic pheromones into the Vraks' swarm. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Vraks' warriors turned on each other, their coordination shattered. A force of 50,000 Vraks was reduced to confused, scattered groups that were easily destroyed by conventional weapons. Several Council species formally protested. But those same species also celebrated their saved colonies. The moral cost weighed heavily on many humans. Medic Yuna found Nari alone in her lab one night, staring at test tubes containing the pheromone weapon. "I created something that can kill millions," Nari said quietly. "I am supposed to be a scientist, not a weapons designer." Yuna sat beside her. "You are also the person who helped save billions. War is ugly. We do not get to choose clean victories." "Does that make it right?" "No," Yuna admitted. "But it makes it necessary. And when this is over, we will have to live with what we did. That is our burden to carry." Over the next 6 months, human forces pushed the Vraks back across every front. The swarm that had seemed unstoppable was in full retreat. Jinwoo's raiders destroyed hive ships faster than the Vraks could replace them. Hana's hammers liberated occupied worlds with brutal efficiency. Minho's cavalry struck deep into Vraks' territory, destroying supply nodes and breeding grounds. The pheromone weapons shattered Vraks' coordination in every major engagement. Council casualties dropped by 70%. Human casualties remained high. Humanity's doctrine accepted losses that other species considered catastrophic. But the war was being won. Commander Sorath watched it all with mixed emotions. The humans had saved the galaxy, but they had also revealed how sheltered and soft Council civilization had become. These Deathworlders fought with a ferocity and determination that most species had forgotten was possible. "Are we wrong?" he asked Theorem one day. To have become so peaceful that we could not defend ourselves? Theorem thought carefully before responding. No, peace is not wrong. But perhaps we forgot that peace must sometimes be defended with violence. The humans never forgot that lesson. The final battle was approaching. Intelligence had located the Vrax Queen Nexus, the central hive from which all Vrax originated. Destroying it would end the war completely. General Taiyang volunteered to lead the assault. It will be the hardest battle yet, Sorath warned. The Vrax will defend their queen with everything they have. The casualties will be enormous. Taiyang looked at him with those hard, determined eyes. Then it is a good thing humans are very hard to kill. The Void Reach Nebula was beautiful and deadly. Massive clouds of ionized gas glowed in shades of purple and blue, creating storms of radiation that could fry ship systems in seconds. At the heart of it all, the Vrax Queen Nexus pulsed like a dark heart. General Taiyang stood on the bridge of the human flagship, watching 400 ships, both human and council forces, prepare for the final assault. This was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. All ships report ready, Colonel Hana said from her station. She would be leading the first boarding teams once they broke through the Nexus defenses. Good, Taiyang replied. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is General Taiyang to all forces. Today we end this war. The Vrax Queen is in that structure, and we are going to kill her. Some of us will not make it home. That is the price we pay. But because we fight today, billions will live in peace tomorrow. Make every shot count. Make every sacrifice mean something. For Earth, for the Council, for the galaxy. The fleet surged forward into the nebula. The Vrax were waiting. Thousands of warrior ships swarmed out of the Nexus like angry insects. The battle began instantly, turning the space around the Nexus into chaos. Captain Minho commanded a destroyer on the fleet's right flank. His ship took heavy fire immediately, shields flashing as Vrax weapons tore into them. Return fire! All batteries! The destroyer's guns roared, cutting through Vrax ships, but for every enemy destroyed, 2 more appeared. Shield strength at 40%, his tactical officer called out. We cannot sustain this. Then we go faster, Minho said. He pushed the engines beyond safety limits, accelerating directly into the Vrax formation. The maneuver was insane. Council pilots would never attempt it. Minho's crew did not hesitate. They punched through the Vrax line, leaving destruction in their wake. Lieutenant Hyunwoo coordinated the pheromone weapon deployment from a specialized science vessel. Releasing dispersal pods now, he reported. The pods floated into the Vrax swarm and detonated, releasing clouds of synthetic chemicals. The effect was immediate. Vrax ships began attacking each other, their coordination shattered. But the Queen was adapting. Some Vrax remained unaffected, fighting with renewed fury. She is learning to resist it, Dr. Nari said from beside Hyunwoo. We do not have much time before the weapon becomes useless. Then we better move fast. Colonel Hana's boarding teams launched from assault carriers, racing toward the Nexus in armored pods. The Vrax defensive fire was intense. Hana watched as 3 pods were destroyed, killing everyone inside. Keep formation, she ordered. We are almost there. Her pod slammed into the Nexus hull, and the cutting charges fired. The opening was barely large enough for the armored Marines to squeeze through. They dropped into a nightmare. The interior of the Nexus was organic, walls that pulsed with veins, floors that felt like flesh, air that tasted like rot, and Vrax warriors everywhere. Push forward! Hana shouted, firing her weapon. The corridor was narrow, forcing the Vrax to come at them in limited numbers. The Marines used that advantage, creating a killing field. They fought for every meter. The Vrax knew what the humans were trying to do and defended desperately. Hana lost soldiers at every junction, every turn, but the survivors kept moving. Behind them, more boarding teams secured their entry points. Jinwoo's raiders came in through the cooling systems. Sora's infantry breached from below. The humans were everywhere, like an infection spreading through the Nexus. Outside, the space battle raged on. General Taeyang coordinated the fleet from her flagship, but the Vraks were fighting with a desperation they had never shown before. They knew this was the end. Either the Queen survived or their entire species died. A Vrak's supership, larger than anything yet encountered, emerged from the Nexus. Its weapons tore through 3 Council cruisers in seconds. "Target that ship," Taeyang ordered. "Concentrate all fire." But the supership's armor was too strong. Conventional weapons barely scratched it. Captain Minho saw what needed to be done. His destroyer was already damaged, shields failing. "General, I can take that ship out." Taeyang understood immediately what he was suggesting. "Captain, no. It is the only way. My engines are still good. I can reach ramming speed." "Minho, that is a suicide run." "I know," he said calmly. "But my crew and we talked about it. We all agree. Tell our families we died well." Before Taeyang could respond, Minho cut the communication. He opened a channel to his crew, 117 men and women who had followed him across the galaxy. "This is the captain. You all know what I am going to ask. Anyone who wants to evacuate has 30 seconds to get to the escape pods. No shame in living." Not a single person moved. "Damn," Minho said, his voice thick with emotion. "It has been an honor serving with you. Engineering, give me everything we have. Full power to engines." The destroyer accelerated, faster and faster, pushing beyond every safety limit. The hull began to glow from friction. Alarms screamed. The ship shook like it would tear apart. Minho aimed directly for the supership's central power core. "For Earth," he whispered. The impact was like a small star dying. The destroyer and the supership both exploded, creating a shockwave that damaged ships for kilometers around. When the flash cleared, both vessels were gone. 118 humans died in that moment, but the Vrak's supership would kill no one else. Inside the Nexus, Colonel Hana reached the Queen's chamber. The room was massive, filled with biological machinery and thousands of eggs. At the center, the Queen herself, a creature the size of a building, pulsing with malevolent intelligence. "Plant the charges," Hana ordered. Her engineers rushed forward, placing explosive devices around the chamber. The Queen screeched, and the remaining Vrak's defenders attacked with suicidal fury. Sergeant Sora held the entrance with her remaining squad, down to just 12 soldiers. They formed a wall of bullets and blades, refusing to let anything past. "Timer is set," the chief engineer called out. 2 minutes. "Everyone fall back," Hana ordered. They ran through corridors filled with dying Vraks, following the path they had carved on the way in. Behind them, the Queen's screams echoed through the entire Nexus. Hana's team made it to their evacuation pod with 30 seconds to spare. She watched through the viewport as the Nexus began to glow from within. The charges detonated, the Queen's chamber exploded, and the blast chain reacted through the entire structure. The Nexus tore itself apart from the inside, taking thousands of Vrak's warriors with it. Across the galaxy, every Vrak's warrior stopped moving simultaneously. Without the Queen's controlling intelligence, they simply shut down. The war was over. The victory celebration on Sanctum Prime was enormous. Every council species gathered to honor the warriors who had saved the galaxy. But the mood among the humans was somber. They had lost 30,000 soldiers, 60% of the force that had left Earth. General Taeyang stood at the memorial service, reading names of the dead. It took 3 hours. Captain Minho, Lieutenant Daiho, Sergeant Jiwoo. Private after private after private, all of them heroes, all of them gone. Ambassador Tharim approached Taeyang after the service. "Your people sacrificed so much for us. How can we ever repay this debt? Taeyang looked at him with tired eyes. By remembering. Remember that peace is precious. Remember what it costs to defend. Remember that somewhere in the galaxy, there is a death world full of people who will fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. The council debate over Earth's membership lasted 3 weeks. The galaxy had seen what humans could do in war. Now they were terrified of what humans might do in peace. Some species argued for full membership and alliance. Others wanted Earth quarantined, its people contained. A few radical factions whispered about preemptive strikes before humans became too powerful. General Taeyang addressed the full Galactic Council in the Grand Chamber. Every species sent representatives. Every eye was on her. You asked for our help, and we gave it, she began. We did not ask for payment. We did not demand territory or resources. We came because you were dying, and we could help. That is what humans do. She paused, letting her words sink in. Yes, we are violent. Yes, we are dangerous. Earth made us hard because it gave us no choice. Every predator, every disease, every storm on our world taught us the same lesson: adapt or die. We adapted, we survived, we thrived. But we are more than just warriors. We are also teachers, artists, builders, dreamers. We create beauty as easily as we create weapons. We write poetry about the same stars we navigate to reach you. Taeyang looked around the chamber. You fear us because you have seen what we can do in war. But give us a chance, and you will see what we can do in peace. We want to learn from you. We want to share with you. We want to be part of something greater than ourselves. The real question is not whether you can trust us. The question is whether you can trust yourselves to build a galaxy where strength protects rather than conquers. We are willing to try. Are you? The vote was close, but it passed. Earth would become a full member of the Galactic Council. Months later, Dr. Nari and Ambassador Theorem stood at an observation window, watching ships prepare for departure. Half the human forces were returning to Earth, carrying the ashes of their fallen and stories of glory. Half would remain as the Council's rapid response force. Do you think we will integrate peacefully? Theorem asked. Nari smiled. We are DeathworldersHFY, Ambassador. We survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own planet trying to kill us every single day. We will survive this too. We always do. And the galaxy? Will it survive you? That depends on whether you remember the lesson. We did not save you because we are DeathworldersHFY. We saved you because we understand what it means to fight for survival. Every species in the Council forgot that lesson. You got soft, comfortable, safe. You thought the galaxy owed you peace. She turned to face him directly. It does not. Peace must be defended, earned, protected. We learned that truth in Blood and Fire. You learned it when the Vrax came. Do not forget it again. A new ship entered the docking bay, a diplomatic vessel from Earth. The first official ambassador stepped out, a former teacher named Borum. She carried no weapons, wore no armor. She came with books and art and offers of cultural exchange. The galaxy had asked for warriors and received DeathworldersHFY. Now they would discover what else humanity had to offer. Somewhere in space, a human patrol ship detected an unknown distress signal. The captain did not hesitate. They altered course immediately, racing toward people they had never met, risking everything for strangers, because that is what humans do. The galaxy would never be the same. And maybe, Theorem thought, that was exactly what it needed.